Okay, great. We're recording. Welcome to our second parent conversation. Just a brief. We have a podcast that we do on Mondays. Where we talk about parent issues and educational issues. We decided that we wanted to do something a little more informal, a little less formal on Thursdays, where we just have a space for parents to, kind of talk and go through things that's going on. We are currently caught up in faced with this tragedy of COVID-19, and us as parents and advocates and us like-minded folks thought it was really important for us to talk about homeschooling, and how are we dealing with homeschooling, and give examples and stuff. So currently on with us we have Chris Patterson, who is parent and teacher. We have Kim Burley Graham, who is a parent. We have Rebecca Yenowin, who is a parent, and we have Sharika. I'm sorry, Sharika, I don't know your last name. Sharika, who's a parent also, and then Joseph Kane, who's parent and also candidate for city council for Baltimore City 14th District. Yeah, I'm plugging everything. Yeah, it's a good man, and people should know about the work that folks are doing. So to kind of jump right in, last week we started talking about examples and all that stuff. I would like to throw the question out there for anyone first on how you've been doing this week, or since then, how have anybody been doing with homeschooling, or how have you managed to get through this last week with homeschooling? If you've done it, because it is a spring break. So if anybody wants to chime in and answer, I'll leave that open for you all. I'm not going to ask every individual. But if nobody wants to. So, all right, cool. Me, was you going to say something, Chris?
I was going to
Thank
say,
you.
no problem. I know this week, like you said, was spring break, and I'm definitely observing the spring break. But last week, a big part was to make sure that the kids were up to date in their Google Classroom, and I mean, for my kids at home, um, putting them on Khan Academy. Both of my kids have access to internet and to technology, so I know that's not available to everybody. But I'm not in a position to go inside of a school to go pick up a packet either. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I that was very important to me that I had that technology outlet, and just making sure that they stay paced and kind of see where they are and what we can help with. Just trying to keep them focused, not beat them down and be like, you got to do 45 minutes of this and 2 hours of that, because it's not realistic. Your home is just a whole different environment, but more so making sure that they got their basic, their reading, their writing, their arithmetic, and kind of like an art project or something to express themselves for the day, and just kind of let them relax after
Mm-hmm.
that. But,
Mm-hmm.
just a regular structured day. I know they had a couple of posts that had like a daily schedule you could follow. I could definitely share that with you. Um, just in case somebody want to know, like, what should a day look like structured.
Okay.
Um, but that outside time or them
You
still
gotta
having
go. I have a
time is
meeting.
very important.
I can't have y'all in the background of my meeting.
But that's pretty much it for last week, and we plan on continuing next week or
Okay.
whatever that may bring.
Great. Welcome, Olu. I actually muted you. You weren't here before when we started. I heard the background. I'm going to unmute you so that you can introduce yourself. You were our guest. And with that, just as you introduce yourself, I would like for you to go ahead and explain to us, your experience with homeschooling. Everything you want us to know. What do you think parents should know about homeschooling? What is a good approach to homeschooling?
Oh, greetings. Sorry.
No
I'm
problem.
talking to my
You
children.
homeschooling.
Hi. I'm trying to turn my video on
Okay.
so that I could be a little more personal with everybody. And my son is 11, and we've been homeschooling since he was 4. He went to an early learning center, and sorry, I'm trying to.
Tyrone, you can invite her. You can invite her video.
It was there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi. Oh, you know what? My phone is broken, so that's not even going to be very good. I think that's why I always leave it blank. So that might be more distracting for it to look that ugly. So anyway, hello everybody. How are you?
Hello.
Good.
Hi. I have been in both worlds. I was a conventional math teacher, and I also am a teaching artist. And I can say that more than teaching has helped me with homeschooling, it's the other way around. Homeschooling has helped me with teaching. It's helped me to really get to observe how children are. Like, that's my subject matter. My subject matter is not math. My subject matter is not art. My subject matter is actually like the children learning and the children. So I have had the pleasure of organizing with other families, and homeschooling, we do it all differently, and that's the beauty of it. And so a lot of times people want to know, like, how do you homeschool? It's really no one answer. And sometimes that's really frustrating that there's not like this video you could watch and then it's like, okay, now I know how to do it, because it really is very personalized. So I wanted to just, I guess, start with three things, and then I mostly wanted to be responsive if anybody has questions. So the first thing is that it's not about doing school at home. That's one style of homeschooling. There's many different styles.
Mm-hmm.
And school at home, when I meet a homeschooler who's really going through it and miserable, I tend to know that they're trying to do school at home. Mm-hmm. So that's like trying to take a cafeteria and put it in your kitchen, right? So it wasn't designed that way. And then, so there's a style that I do. I found out the name of the style that I do. It's called Charlotte Mason, which basically is not, a child is not just an academic sponge. And everything is important, how they are, their character development and their, how they take care of themselves and the house are equally important. So with our homeschooling, we're not just doing math, we're not just doing, writing, etc. The subjects, we are looking at how we are as citizens within our community, how we take care of the house and each other. We do the Virtues Project training, for example. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but the idea of like how we are with each other is equally weighted with anything and everything else. And I also recommend, so yes, I don't recommend school at home and trying to even remotely think of how you can adapt this several subject day with these hours into your home. So then what is it that you are doing? I do recommend having a plan, but that mostly to recognize sometimes that the plan is for me more than it's even for my children, so I can have sanity and clarity. So with the first thing with the plan, when people actually are interested in homeschooling, the first thing I do is ask them to write their mission statement. And I recommend that anyway, like even if your children are going to school, you're still the captain of their education. So what is it that you hope that they get out of what they're doing? And the reason why that's so important is because I've had to tweak what I do as a homeschooler, because then I started to realize sometimes I get so bogged down in trying to do my plan that I realize that I'm not accomplishing my bigger mission, which is to have lifelong learners. So maybe, I know I personally harassed my son into reading. I told you I've been homeschooling him since he was like 3 or 4, since he was 3. And I was like, oh my goodness, if he can't read, I can't blame that on anybody else. Mm-hmm. So I was really like kind of running scared, and I kind of harassed him into reading. And I had to learn to ease up off of that, so that I could get the real thing of what I'm trying to get done, which is for him to be a lifelong learner. So, and I've temporarily homeschooled people who were or helped homeschool people who were going back into the school system. So I knew that their mission was a little different. They wanted to stay on target with certain, grade milestones. I personally do not look at grade milestones. Do you see that I'm on the phone? Okay, yes, all right, that's great. They, as soon as I get on the phone, they all know.
We parents, we know.
I said yes. 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 I keep saying yes. Sorry. So I don't know. I don't know how to, because it's, you all maybe have different ideas or different issues, and so maybe I don't know if now or later. I don't know the structure of the meeting.
Yeah, so what I will do is, if people, with what you heard, like I have a couple of questions, that I specifically want to ask, but we also, this is a conversation. So anyone on, if you have a question that came to mind, I'll give a, couple of seconds for you. Not, you can ask your question, but if no one asks in a couple of seconds, then I'll ask. We don't want to sit quiet, but if someone wants to ask, you can throw a little church finger in the air or something and ask your question to Olu as she's here.
I have one.
Okay.
So I've been talking with parents throughout this week, and there are two questions that I've heard consistently. And one is, how much time per day should be allocated for their educational activities? And then the other question that I've heard is how to keep them on task and actually motivated to do the work.
I love both of those questions because, even though there's not one answer, because I literally have 4 children, and even within my household, that answer is different. And even as they've gone through the same ages, because I have a 3-year-old to an 11-year-old. So it really doesn't take as long as you think. And I'm going to say my answer both from homeschooling as well as some, studies from, for example, Finland is, leading in scores, right, in excellence, in academic excellence, and their philosophy is not about, sitting at a desk all day. Lots of frequent breaks, being able to move around. I think that we forgot, and I'm gonna include myself, that children being able to move around is a key part of their brain development. Like, even if you just want to look at them as like people whose brains you have to develop. I mean, they're whole people, but so even for the purposes of excellence, being able to have them be able to take breaks as needed and is really important. And also, we know how we work. We maybe have the capacity to like dig into something that we know we have to do, which is a little different from younger people, but we don't want to just like sit there all day either. So I saw a chart recently that had like for pre-K through K, like 20 to 30 minutes, or no, preschool was like 20 to 30 minutes of like maybe like doing a focused activity. And it really just added a little bit more each year. So like by 3rd grade, it's like an hour and a half of schooling, which is very different than a school day when you think about it. But a school day is full of all these other different things and transition. And to be honest, lots of busy work. But children are always learning. So I think that's the key about it. It's not that you're saying they're only spending an hour and a half learning. They're spending their entire day learning. Children can't not learn. So, but in terms of that, like sitting down and focusing on a project or a worksheet or, whatever it is that you have before them, I would like to maybe before we leave, I can look up that chart or send it. Maybe I can send it to you all through Rebecca, maybe. And that chart that has something that I think is more akin to what we really do, and how they're actually doing. And then keeping them motivated is a beautiful question. Both as a teacher and as a homeschooler, it really has to, the real ideal answer is that the children love to learn. That's how I even became a homeschooler, because I was teaching teenagers who were, I observed them feeling like it's almost like they did me a favor by turning in some halfway work, right? And I was like, how did that happen? When I look at my 2-year-old and he loves to learn, what happens in this time period in between? So keeping them having some agreement, buy-in, or excitement into it. If you're just trying to get them to get through some worksheets and things like that they don't see the value in, but you feel like it's really important to them, I would share that it's really important to them. But I wanted to share something called the box system, just as something practical, because I don't want to just be philosophical and not leave people with something practical. So the box system can be applied in many different ways, but there's a box, whether it's a drawer or whatever, some kind of box, and it has their assignments for the day, and maybe it has all the materials that they need to complete the assignment. And there's some kind of system, whether it's a magnet that they move or they check off, and they're clear on what it is that they need to do for the day, and it's not so you involved. I think that really helps. I know with my children, if I'm not always just in it at the helm, and I give them space to breathe and they're aware of what they need to do, that helps me. So if you look up the workbox system, and you can see videos of how people actually apply it, because there's lots of different ways to do it. There's no one way, but the idea is that they have everything that they need, whether they need scissors, string, the instructions, it's all in the box, or their worksheet, but it's very clear. It's in discrete amounts. Don't give them like a whole bunch of stuff, just what they're supposed to do for that day in the box. And there's some kind of way that they can move or indicate to themselves. Sometimes when we can check off that we've done something, then we feel good. So I find that is something very practical that helps. I don't know if that helps people. So.
Great. Anyone else have a specific question for Olu around that? Okay. Is somebody? No, Kim. Because Kim, Kim muted. Let me make sure Kim done. Kim, you good? Because I see that you were on mute. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't. You may have unmuted yourself.
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm just listening.
Yeah, take it in. That's good. I'm definitely gonna look up the box system.
Tyrone,
It's called workbox system. The workbox system.
The workbox system.
And there's a million homeschooler videos on it of every race.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So my question is for you: could you help? And I know you said that you have 4 children at home. So and this is like what I've heard. I've dealt with. My kids are actually close in age, so it was kind of easy for me to work on the same thing with them. But for parents who may have a 1st grader and then a 6th grader and a 11th grader, right? Like, how do you recommend, or what how would you suggest to them to, I don't know, split the time up? Instantly for me, I think you work individually with them at separate times, but that may be hard for a parent who's still at home, working and, have stuff to do. So like, what would you, I guess the box could work for them too, right?
I love that question. And that's really what keeps me from being an expert. Like, I would not call myself an expert on homeschooling, because each year it has turned into something else. Like, I'm like, all right, I got this down. And now I got this baby who's now 12 months and is crawling on top of my head while I'm trying to do this with this one. So each year it has literally been a completely different experience for me. And so, what's the number one thing that I have to say, what I like to do is I like to give the youngest one attention first. This is what's worked. And because if you kind of try to think that they're going to like star on the peripheral and just mind their business, that's like not real. So like if you have, especially one that's dramatically younger than the others, giving them like even 15 to 30 minutes attention to set them up, maybe even with an activity that is related or parallel. So if we're studying elephants, I'm just making something up, then, you know, maybe I have like some shapes I might cut out and put it together, and like put this together to make it look like an elephant. I'm not a very crafty person, but I have dug into that pocket of mine and found some things to do. I also taught kindergarten a couple years ago, so I had to dig into that. So you don't have to be an expert at crafts. Sometimes, you know, we put together something that looks so crazy, and it'll be my fault that it looks crazy, and I'll be like, you know, the kids did that. So, so I'm not like an expert in crafts at all, but I'll try.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, you have some kind of, like, you know, you're going to be working on something with the older children. If you have some kind of activity that is parallel or related, I feel like that really helps in giving the youngest person attention first. And yes, absolutely. Sometimes it comes in waves. And when I need to pull it together, honestly, you know, that happened earlier today because we didn't get out the way that I thought we were and that I had promised them. So I do like instant book time in my house. Like, oh, it's just time to read a book.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. And so everybody they know to pull out a book. It doesn't have to be a book that you read. So my youngest, or my oldest daughter, she pulled out a yoga book that yoga poses. I don't care. It's interactive with a book, and it's quiet. It's on your own. I have another one that does magic. You know, he's looking through this magic tricks. Every once in a while, he'll want to come and find me and do the trick. So that doesn't always work as like quiet book time. But I have little things that's just like, you know what, this. Or it's also a great opportunity to give them something that they can't get in school, which is you and your family values. So we had the opportunity to, you know, maybe it's some like a freedom fighter's birthday, right? Because we're into that in my family. So I get to talk to them about that where they might not have gotten that in school. Or if your family's in the riding motorcycles, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment on whatever it is, but whatever your family's thing is or values is, maybe you have some YouTube playlists already together in that subject matter, and you play, you know, little things that just kind of pull them together. If it just starts to get all over the place, is another thing that I recommend. So maybe having a YouTube playlist ready to go. That's not just like mindless stuff or whatever it is that you want to share with them.
Okay. Cool. Kim? I think it. Let me make sure. Hold up. Let's see. Hold up. Here we go. Let me make sure. Okay. Oh, you did it yourself. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. No, I appreciate all of her suggestions, especially the workbox system. I think what I have just been trying to do this past week is have some structure, but have some flexibility within that. I do the worksheets, but then I do try to do some online stuff and reading. And I definitely agree with that time for play. So, you know, I have an 8-year-old, and I've been doing like 20 minutes of work and then letting him have some free time to do some other things and then come back to work. So if it's like the first thing he does, and I let him choose what he does first. So if he's doing math first and he finishes that and he wants to move on through to reading, then that's fine. But if he wants to kind of take a break and take a snack and, I don't know, run around or something, I allow him to do that within that time frame. But I'm still trying to do mornings are more education focused, and then afternoons are play, because I definitely don't want the whole day to be nothing but schoolwork. So I've learned that. And some days I've just learned that, you know, math might work today and it might work for everything. And then reading may be something that I have to be like, okay, you still have to do a little bit of reading. So I have to just even be flexible with that as well, because Some days he's just not about the reading.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to force it, but still let him know that it's important that we do a little bit of something, if that makes any sense. So it's just been a whole lot of flexibility, a lot of learning from myself. I do agree with bringing in some of your own cultural values and things. So, we've cooked a little bit together, and we're making sure that he gets up and he's making his bed, and just some little things that help him become a productive citizen. And so even now, when he talks about what's really going on while he's not in school, the coronavirus, he has a lot of questions, and so I try my best to answer them without being so technical, so in depth, so he's beginning to be like, oh, it's bad. I'm like, yeah, it's bad. So yeah, that's about what I'm doing. So
okay, all right. Is anybody else? I see Angela jumped on. Hello, Angela. But also, if anyone else here may have a question for Olu, or if not, or if someone would like to, give an example of what it is that they're doing or how things are working for them. I think things will work, different for other people. It will be different for each individual household, right? It's like mine's. Like I said, I'm raising. I have 2 middle school daughters, and for us, at first I was frazzled. I'm not lying. Like I was frazzled. I ain't never been when I was young, I used to thought I was somebody teacher and in control. That's about it, and wanted to be a teacher, but I had no idea like how I was going to do anything. But just like kind of talking from our conversation last week, and then this one, and like I think we have a really good plan down. At least I think so, and I like it. It's working for them. Because I was so frazzled last week, we spent a lot of time not doing a bunch of nothing except for playing PlayStation. So we cut our spring break in half, right? Because they had playtime last week. And we've been doing things around y'all. A lot of y'all know, like I'm running for office. So we in our school system don't teach about local politics. So I took the time, to teach about local politics and let them know about their local politics and what's going on. And that really caught their interest. So I say that to say, especially with older kids or anybody, I think if we find something that find their interest, I'm their father, I'm running for office, they want to know more about what I do, and what I'm into and why I'm doing this. So that like really got them into to where so my oldest, Anaja, she kind of went off on her own outside of our time and started doing research on the mayor now and his background and things that he voted for. And, she came back to me like, well, why did it? I was like, it was kind of a man, like, okay, girl, it was exciting. It was a real proud moment, for me there to see that. So yeah, so that's that's what I've been doing. We've been doing, the cooking thing and all that. That definitely helps. I'm also taking advantage of this time because it was school time now where I would fight with them around chores. We've included it in their schoolwork. So, my bathroom is clean without me, having to say. But we talked about like it also made me think more about, because before, I don't know, it was kind of like I know how to clean. I want this my specific way, but now I'm kind of letting them, see and learn how and what works best for them. Because I like a certain smell, so I wanted my bathroom only done with lavender. But my daughter, she likes actually how bleach, cleans some, whatever. Like just those, those differences between them and kind of doing that is working for me. Is anybody else would like to share, what they're doing or what's working for them, or
looking out for her,
or have any questions?
I can share. So my 6-year-old definitely is a little, she does not enjoy structure. And so she just doesn't really like anything about school. And she goes and she does what she's supposed to do. And she's a rule follower, so she does fine. But when given the opportunity to not be in that structure, there is nothing about school that she will do. So like if I try to have I thought I had this great activity. I found it in the Chicago Public Schools has, I think, a really great curriculum that's available to anybody who wants to check it out. It's all very very much about like doing projects that are interesting to kids, and they can do them independently without a grown-up guiding every step of the way, which I think is appropriate for where we are. And so anyway, I found this activity that was like clay and toothpicks, and you make different shapes with like the toothpicks and the clay. And we were learning about, math. It was a math game. And she just I thought it was so fun. She loves making things. She loves it. She had wanted nothing to do with it because I presented it with a little hint of a teacher like quality to it. And she just wouldn't do it. Meanwhile, like there's all sorts of other things that she's willing to explore. And I think, I love that idea of the box. What did you call it? The
Workbox system.
I think that's sort of what works best for us. So this morning I put out some little wooden figures that you can paint on, and I put out some things that she could paint, some painting supplies, and that was like one thing. And then I put out a book that I knew she loves to have read to her, so that was her book that she knew she was supposed to read to me today. And then there was like something else, like if she wanted, they were all kind of choices. I never said this is what you have to do. She just, at one point she said, I'm bored. I'm like, well, check out what's on the table. And she chose what she wanted to do, and there was no fight, there was no drama, and it was fun. And that's the best that that's worked the best for us so far.
I was gonna say on the other, there's school at home, and on the other end of the spectrum is unschooling, which is child-led learning, which this speaks to engagement. I thought that was the craziest thing I ever heard, before I had children. But children really do love to learn. Like
Yes.
you're not ever gonna like be a better teacher than they are at learning. So and they will struggle with the concept. From the time they were babies, they wouldn't have walked, like, even though their head was too big, and they kept trying and they made it happen, even though it was difficult. So we think that like they won't do things that are difficult or complex, but if left to themselves. But I think they will do things that are more difficult and more complex. That's what I had to learn about the reading. So at first I was busy teaching my son to read, but when I turned into a coach instead of a teacher, and I said, you know what? Any book that you see in this room, you can read. If it has pictures or doesn't have pictures, it's up to you. Because we know a lot of picture books are not like early reader books.
Right.
But they're really interesting and rich. But they have words that, I said, and if you come to a word that you don't know, you can just point to it and look at me. So I just was taking the back seat, and it was very challenging because I wanted to correct him. And I felt like if I didn't correct him, he would go forth and never be good at reading. And it's not true, because they learn patterns and they figure things out if we give them the opportunity to. But it really took a lot of discipline and a change in perspective. And I was just going to say to what Rebecca was talking about is it's commonly called strewing. So unschoolers is not just neglect, right? It's not like you just neglect your children, like, oh, whatever. But you can be intentional and put things, they have certain interests, or maybe you just talked about something yesterday and you might put it out for them. I know we don't have a lot of luxuries, like with homeschooling, not being able to like leave the house. This is not like regular homeschooling, but like you can't go out and get stuff and go to the library. But if you happen to have something, or pull up some tabs on the computer that relate to their interests, and strew it, like just leave it out, and they can choose to come over and interact with it. And another concept that's a little bit more structured with that is like stations. Like if you have stations, if you're willing to like put something together and kind of make it like a space in your home, if you have that, like this space over here is the such and such station, and that's the other station to do this. I think that's another way to make it so they could choose to interact, and you don't have to be at the center of it, because we're trying to get work done too. And I also wanted to add that it's kind of like with nutrition. Every single meal doesn't have to have all the food groups and every nutrient, but it's like you're trying to get it over the course of a day and maybe even a week, right? So if somebody said that, some days they just haven't hit this or that, I think that you could I think I want to say that that's perfectly fine, and it allows the child to get into a flow. If we're all about this today, like, let's dig into it, as opposed to stopping it prematurely to say, no, stop that, like, let's do this now. So if they get writing in this week, maybe you want to write every day. I know my children I'm a writer, but they were neglecting writing, so I was like, we're going to do journaling every day. But if they write an amazing story or do an essay, it might not be every day. Like, that's okay. What it could be that it gets done, but not every single day, and it allows them to flow or to be able to dig in. That's all I want to say.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Another jewel. Like, that just helped me even further. Wow. That was good. So when you get ready to say something, Kim, I seen you set up. You look like, you can say, are you muted? No. Oh, yes, you are. I got you. See, that's why I don't like this. I mean, whatever. You had to do it yourself, Kim.
There
I
did
you
it.
go.
I think I really, really appreciated the way she talked about being a coach versus a teacher.
Yep.
I appreciated that because I get in a different mind frame. And as a coach, people are still learning stuff, right? But it's just a different way to frame it, a different way to do it. So I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, that just helped me out a lot. A whole lot, especially with older kids, and that just helped me out a lot. Feeling like you have to be on them because they're teenagers, and things that's going on and everything. Like, to just kind of coach them through some stuff, and not really, that spoke to me in different areas, even with parenting, right? Like, not even just schoolwork, with being just a parent, and thinking stuff, and that piece about them being little big head babies, and you looking like you don't want them to hurt themselves, but they do just keep going at it, and eventually they get it, and they get it in their time, and wow. Yeah, I don't know. It's like logical stuff that we just don't think about. Or maybe it's just me. I'm a little slow. But whatever. I get it eventually.
We forgot how we learned.
Right.
And I think we have to take into consideration that a lot of people have been a part of a system, right? We've been a part of an educational system, a work system. And now, because that system is going through its issues, now we have to bring our children who are a part of that system into our homes and figure out what is going to be best for them. So even last night at home, we all put the phones down and just had a conversation for probably about, Emmanuel is 16, Anaya is 10. And so there's a big age difference in between them. But we were just talking about family. And so many things came up. And I'm a history teacher and a homeschooler, but my kids didn't know some of my own family history. And so just to be able to talk to them about stuff about my mom, their grandmother, what it was like growing up, where they get some of their attributes and their personality types from, it was such a healing conversation. And I realized that, there's a lot going on outside, but those are the moments where I'm like, maybe this isn't that bad, because you're able to get those glimpses of light in. Mm-hmm. Also, what was said about allowing children to basically teach you how they learn. My son being really into fitness, I just let him lead that. That's his torch. And so in order for us to get our physical exercise in, he leads those 2 hours of the day where we're doing something physical. My daughter is crafty, so she wants to paint. She's gonna set up everything dealing with that because that is her stuff. And so just allowing our children to show us who they are, and understanding that even though they're young and we consider them to be babies, they were sent to us to teach us certain things. And so now is the time that we have the opportunity to actually learn from them what they need
and how they need it. And then that also leads to a bigger conversation about when, now that we know that our children may only need 2 hours is enough time to receive information and for them to feel competent. And then to also understand that there are other things in between learning, making your bed, brushing your teeth, saying how you feel about certain things, understanding your body, understanding your responsibility to yourself, your family, your community. Those are things that may never be brought up in school. And so these are opportunities that I feel that I'm getting to now share with my children in a way that there really aren't that many interruptions, other than the interruptions that, you know, just come in from us being us.
Okay. Do you mind if I say something?
Yeah, no, we don't mind. Go on.
I know that I came in late, so I don't know if I'm repeating anything, just let me know. But one idea that I had that was incredible is that my son really likes history. He's 10. He really likes history, and he was learning the Revolutionary War in school. He loves Hamilton. We have to listen to Hamilton like 1,000 times a day. But one thing that I realized is my father also loves history. And they live in New York, and so my father every morning for an hour is on the phone with my son and teaches him history. And it's been such a blessing because my father, especially through wintertime, struggles with like seasonal depression. And so, and I think in all of this, he has like a lot of the markers of people that are vulnerable to COVID. And so I gave him this task, and he is just loving it so much. He's researching things. He's so excited. He's having my son look at certain videos and stuff. And so that's a way for me to make sure that my son stays connected to that. Yeah. Also, it gives my father like this new kind of purpose, and he's just loving it so much. So I'm just kind of putting that out there as an idea as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Need that. Yeah. That leads me to the phrase that I've heard all my life and still hear, that it takes a village to raise a child, right? So, you know, I hear that. Now that makes me think, oh, you know what, Tyrone? Right. You need to connect your child to your mother, you know what I mean? And have her teach her and give her an hour or half an hour a day in your day to take something off of you, you know, to work with and do with. No, for real, right? But at the same time, she will be, you know, learning, learning history and all that stuff like that. My mother know, I mean, even if it's just like the history of Baltimore, right, in the city, or matter of fact, New York. My family's not from Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore, but my family's not from Baltimore. You know what I mean? So my kids are from Baltimore, of course, because of me, but you know, I didn't think about that, right? But to learn that history and know all of that stuff, where they came from, where some of our roots and stuff are, and it's just in African American families, I don't know about everyone, and mine's, it's a lot of things that we just don't know about our past anyway. So to take this time, you know what I mean, to educate them on what we can get now and what they know, I think is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. So
question. I have a question just about, I know that this is an unusual time. Olu said that, you know, not just like homeschooling, it's like you can go out and use resources that would typically be at your disposal. How are people figuring out the need for your kids to socialize? Are you doing, I don't know.
So Rebecca,
I'm
sorry to jump in, but video calls are saving my life. So I don't know if your daughter has friends that she would have play dates with. Even a 5 or 6 minute conversation with their friend via video call is really helpful. But just to have some she's not a phone talker.
I mean, she runs around with the phone, but I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
I'm not sure that there's actual connection.
That's
really...
She's 6, you know.
Yeah.
And this child, so, you know.
And I kind of watched him be on like the kids messenger, and it was a mess. Like all he's doing is putting out emojis, and you know his friend was kind of, there was no real socializing going on.
But that's to us though.
Right.
But but it is there. I say the same thing when I see I have middle school kids. I look and I'm like, well, first of all, that's how I learn what emojis are what and all of that stuff for my kids. But looking at them, I'm like, what are you talking about? But they can, if you allow them to tell you what it is, they'll tell you what 50 emojis makes up for a whole conversation. You know, and that's the way that they are, you know, communicating. Like, I mean, Olu said it earlier, or someone was saying earlier, we can learn from them. Like, maybe this is our time to get in their world also, right? And begin to learn what's going on with them and what these emojis are and how that stuff work. Because, like, yeah, like they do some stuff and get on these, you know, devices and they make stuff happen. They make stuff happen. I know my girls. Well, this wouldn't help you, Rebecca, but maybe someone with older kids too. My kids, you know, they have online, their PlayStation and stuff. You know, like they're still able to connect with their friends through the games that they play on PlayStation and talk to them. Of course, they've asked, can, you know, the best friend come over and stay the weekend, but we ain't doing that until this is over. But, you know, they're able to still connect through that. You know, I don't do social media a lot with my kids, but again, they found other ways, TikTok and, you know, those other little things that they dance and do little videos and share with each other on. So those are ways, but I do know, Rebecca, I know Eve isn't on TikTok or anything like that. So
there's Messenger for kids.
Right, I think that's what Angela just was talking about.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, ain't no sorry. So we are yeah, good timing. I would like to just take this moment. If anyone, you know, have any, you know, kind of like last thoughts or anything that you want to share or any questions. As I said, these Thursday talks will be just like this, you know, just for parents to kind of come and, you know, release. This is a very different moment that we're dealing with. So I think COVID and coping with COVID will probably be a part of each topic, you know, a lot of time or whatever. I do want to throw out there, yes, we can, Rebecca. If you remember all of the information, I'll actually give it to you, Rebecca, to talk about Joe Kane's group and the parent support group that they've created. I just don't remember all of the information at time with and stuff like that. For us, I am going to join the call tonight though, but I don't remember the information for everyone. So I'll let Rebecca say that. But if anyone else, you know, want to share, like I say, any last minute thoughts or notes, or as y'all think throughout the week, if y'all could shoot us an email, you know, something might be going on or something may have happened that you would like to have a discussion with other parents about and talk about, you know what I mean, that we can bring up for next week. Trust me, I have a lot of things in this big head and mine is still big, even as an adult one. I have a lot of stuff. Oh, Sharika, you was laughing real hard at that one. I seen it. But no, I have a lot of, you know, ideas and thoughts in my head as I thought about this that I would, you know, bring. But if folks have other, you know, thoughts and ideas, this is just something I thought of that would be good for us also, right? As parents and adults dealing with this different space and kind of having this talk, being able to talk to parents. I need separation from my kids at times also, right? And I think other parents do, you know, too. So that's why I thought this would be really, really good. It's not really structured and, you know what I mean? Like we don't have to find experts, just parents helping parents and talking about what we're doing to do this. So that's what this space is for.
Well, I feel like we have the experts right here, and just wanted to thank everyone who shared today and kind of play back for you kind of what I'm taking away from today's conversation. So as I was listening to everyone, there were 4 words that came to mind. They all started with P. And so the first one was purpose. Starting this journey, keeping it top of mind throughout, being really clear on, you know, what is it that I want my child to gain and to experience. So purpose was the first one. The second, when I heard about the workbox, and Rebecca, your example of putting items out on the table, or even setting up the activity stations that we talked about, it made me think about how important planning is in terms of making sure that all of the materials are ready. The third one is preparation. Actually, I reversed those two in my mind. What I just talked about was preparation. So actually getting the materials ready is preparation. Planning, I thought of more so in terms of thinking about taking that original purpose and breaking it out. Now, what is it that I want my child to accomplish by the end of the week? So realizing they may not do every subject every day. Olu, you mentioned that you might hit math twice a week as opposed to 5 days a week, but just really kind of thinking ahead and saying, by the end of this week or by the end of these 2 weeks, this is my plan. I want them to get this, even if they don't hit everything every day. So that was planning. And then the fourth one was personalization. So it sounded like one thing that makes this work really well is personalizing the delivery as well as the content itself. I really like that example of using family members as teachers as a way to personalize and letting students really dictate what it is that they want to learn. So thank you all. Those are my 4 Ps, so much appreciated.
Thank you, Sharika. So
I
much.
also wanted to say, I know that this conversation is about, homeschooling and how to balance the homeschooling out. Just want parents to know that this, even though parents are working still, some are working their conventional jobs from home and homeschooling, there's still a lot of time that we are able to save that we would either be spending on commuting or at work. So attempt to infuse some time to boost your own self-care. Identifying what that is. What are some personal goals that you want to work on? William, thank you for the suggestion of infusing exercise or doing stuff like different little active challenges, like who can do the most push-ups or whatever it is. That really helps to think about how much more time can we put into caring for ourselves, because even in our self-care, our children are watching and they're going to take care of themselves the way we take care of ourselves. And the way we take care of our mind, bodies, and spirits are going to affect them. So use this as an opportunity to gear up our self-care.
If there's, I wanted to add, Rebecca said something about I don't know what words you use, but sometimes we could feel like we failed. So she had this great idea and you plan it all out. And I want to say that's a real educator because the idea is not it's not the subject matter, but the child is your subject matter, right? So you could design something. It could be an object and maybe it was meant to teach them like the alphabet, but they want to use it to like climb on something. And it's like, oh, let me go back to the drawing board. And so I was just going to say, like, don't be afraid to experiment and be humble about whatever happens with that experiment. And I don't know if anybody knows about the Life of Fred math books, but I thought they were like really amazing. I mean, it delivers math through a story. And I was like, wow, if I had this when I was growing up, everything would be great. So I checked it out. Anyway, the point is that I bought it and I waited for a special time to share it with my son, and he was completely uninterested. So that broke my heart a little bit. And but I did find a way to come again with it, and we still use them today. But it's like being humble, and it's okay to experiment, and it's okay to quote unquote fail the same way it's for them to learn. It's like, so don't be afraid and don't be hard on yourself. It's all good.
Thank you. What was the name of that? The life.
Life of Fred, the Life of Fred. If you have people who are particularly into stories, and when they do the problem, it's not called problems, it's called Your Turn to Play, and the answers are on the next door. It's about Fred is a 5-year-old math professor, and it goes all the way to calculus. That's my son. He does like Fred, but anyway.
No, I don't.
So yeah, it goes all the way to calculus, but it's just kind of my children at least used to, even if we did math right before bed, they would even do like a couple chapters or right before. It allowed us to do math in untraditional times, like right before bed, because they enjoyed it. So it's called Life of Fred.
That's dope. That's nice. Anybody else? Thoughts? I know, Rebecca, you want to share about Joseph. Yeah, because I'm calling some people out. I'm going to hear from William before we leave. I'm going to hear from Kim before we leave and Chris before we leave. And did I get final thoughts from Angela as well? Nope. So I'm coming to y'all. So Rebecca, you can go and share your stuff now.
So I just wanted to share that our team of Teachers Democracy Project parents thought about what we wanted to recommend that the district do in this time in terms of what they provide to parents, and we shared our list of things, which at some point we'll post probably on our website for all to see. But it's basically what we're learning from these calls. It's like, don't try to do school the way school is done in school. There's nothing about homeschool that is like that space, so don't try to do it that way. Embrace how different this can be and what the opportunity is here, and how to keep yourself sane, so you don't just end up in a battle with your children, and just have realistic expectations. So Joseph Kane, who's in addition to all sorts of things that he does in community, is a member of PCAB, the Parent Community Advisory Board, and he's trying to figure out how to get parents to be to have networks of parents be able to support one another in a peer-to-peer kind of way throughout the next however long they're out of school. So I just wanted to put that on folks' radar. His vision right now, and become the vision of PCAB as they develop it, is to have grade bands, have phone calls among grade bands, so that if you have a first grader, all sorts of first grade parents can support one another in a weekly telephone call or on Facebook. So just wanted to, if folks are interested in knowing more about that, we can share more. Just reach out to us on Facebook or wherever. I'm at Rebecca at tdpbaltimore.org, or find Joe Kane how you find Joe Kane.
Final thoughts, Miss Angela?
I just want to say thank you to everyone, because I got some really good ideas, and my husband's around in the background making dinner, but he's the one that's doing the majority, because I'm still working from home and I'm working harder than ever actually these days. But these are some really good ideas. I really appreciate everybody's input, and I really liked how, I don't remember who said it in here, but we're all the experts and we're all learning from each other and sharing our experiences. And so I just want to say thank you.
Yep. Great. Thank you. Next, Chris. You gotta mute yourself, Chris, because you muted yourself. I didn't do it, so. Oh, there you go. You on now, Chris. Oh, no, you're not. We can't hear you. But you're not. Now we can.
Okay. I thought this was awesome. Aside from learning different platforms on how to deliver to students, or to your kids, sorry. The only thing that was running through my mind was how I could change my classroom situation and make, that differentiation for my classroom students. I am a mom for anything, so I feel like being a parent helps me be a teacher. And this conversation and all, I got a good takeaway of different approaches on how to do the different learning styles and different systems you can put in place to make things more effective for students.
Thank you. Who it was William and did I hear from Kim? No, I didn't get no final thoughts from Kim. Kim, you up?
Oh, me? Oh, me.
You.
Lord. I just find it therapeutic and just reassuring that I'm not the only one who feels all over the place. I'm not the only one who's still working and trying to do this as well. All of us are doing a whole lot of stuff and still trying to do stuff for our kids. So I just find this time with y'all therapeutic. So thank you.
Awesome sauce. And then Olu, and then I wrap it up with William because that's my other. Marlon, did you give any final thoughts? Yeah, you did.
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
I infused self-care.
Yes, you did. Olu, any final thoughts? Then I'm gonna wrap it up with William because that's my other co-host, and he ain't had nothing to say this time around. We'll deal with that later.
Oh, I did. It was just about being humble to make mistakes and experiment. Don't be afraid. You know, you might come up with some schedule or some lesson. You might even put a lot of attention into it, and it's okay. All of it is okay. And I just, in that same vein, when I used to teach dance, it's like we might spend a long time learning the first like 8 counts. Then after that, we would speed through. So like knowing that you're not just like learning the subject matter, but you're also learning the whole thing, the whole process, the whole new routine, and just being super patient about that for all the pieces that are coming together. And it's all good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Olu, for joining us and sharing all of your experiences. Brother William.
I think you touched, Tyrone, on exploring local politics, Baltimore politics. I think it is crucial that we invite our children to watch both the presidential briefing as well as the gubernatorial briefing. I know Governor Hogan doesn't do them every day, but as often as he does, but certainly the presidential briefing, because you get to introduce kids to politics, social studies, and government in real time. So you can present it as, this is the problem, and then have a discussion with your children. How would you solve the problem? And then you introduce to your children what part of government is supposed to handle what problem.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go on and say, is that happening? Yes, great. No, why not? What are the issues? So they can problem solve through that. It's also a great way to explore the Constitution. Some of us have already been looking at the major cities right now have been infused, let me say, with the National Guard. So some of the children, I know that's traumatic for some of our children to see all these military vehicles rolling through their city. And we have it at M&T Bank now. What is the purpose of the National Guard? Why are they there? What happens if martial law is instituted? What happens to the Constitution? Does the Constitution support? So all of these things that are happening daily, especially when we're seeing more closures and the society itself being closed by government out of the concern of this, this national, health crisis. So I think it's a great way to build discussions in daily with not only with your lessons, because all of you all sounds like you are in a great way, in a great direction for your kids, but also we need to have the children pay attention to what's happening within our government nationally and locally. Like you said, Tyrone, that's a huge lesson. And now you have one galvanizing, it's a sad galvanizing event, but you have one galvanizing event where you can see how government works on different levels around the same issue. Because right now, the main focus of government is on this crisis. So that's my part of the shot.
Yeah, that's real. Thank you. Yeah, that's real. All right, well, I done talked enough. Y'all can catch us next week. I'll post it if anyone, like I said, we will be back here next week. And again, Monday we'll do our regular podcast, but we will be back here for this kind, discussion talk. And know anybody else that may can benefit, want to join or share some stuff with us during this, during this time. Like anything. Just let us know. I would throw out there that if y'all could help me in researching ways of just staying safe. I know my kids are kind of getting the cabin fever and stuff, and you do hear from some people you can go out, you hear from some people don't go out, right? Like, so I need to, I just need help. I don't really know what best way to go, or how to I'm saying, kind of protect that with me and us and all that kind of stuff, because the easiest thing to me is to stay indoors where I know we're good at, but I don't want them to get super anxious. I got 13 to 14-year-olds, so it can be a little rough. But yeah, so thank y'all again, and y'all can you can ask, and you can ask a question.